Welcome to the Unchained TV podcast. Animals are suffering by the billions in factory farms. What can we do to speak for these voiceless animals? There are people who go out there and get arrested. There are people who use virtual reality tools to go into factory farms to document what's happening to them. There are people who are writing books. We just interviewed two last week, trying to wake people up about the need to not support factory farms in their consumer purchases. Well, now we've got another breakthrough. It's called Connect for Animals. And those are the three leading team members behind this new initiative to speak up for factory farmed animals.
Have you heard about the amazing new platform for animal rights events? Connect for Animals is a user-friendly platform where you can find and share animal rights events in all of North America. It's perfect for people who are trying to find activism opportunities or share their own. You can even find lectures, meditations, and conferences on their website.
Empower the hundreds of thousands of people who care deeply about ending factory farming but aren't sure where to start. We're building a community where anyone can learn about this movement, discover events and organizations, and find ways to get involved.
Welcome. We are talking about Connect for Animals. We're so delighted to have the three lead organizers of this incredible breakthrough app that you can download on your phone, and you can also get online at connectforanimals.com. So let's get right to it. The team is here, and we are going to talk to them. Stephen Ruck, you are the founder. Why did you start this incredible app? What inspired you?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us here. It's just a delight to be here. And I do want to give a shout out to the rest of our team that couldn't be here today. We have lots of amazing folks working behind the scenes. So why Connect for Animals? Essentially, I've been doing animal advocacy for about a decade in various capacities and have talked to so many people during that time who care about animals, who are vegan or vegetarian, want to help in factory farming. And this was my experience too, where it's hard to get involved. It's hard to find your place. It's hard to find out how to take action, what events there are, what organizations there are. And after a long time of seeing this gap, I wanted to do something about it, essentially. And so that was the seed of the idea behind Connect for Animals, and asking, how can we make sure that if people care about this issue, and there are a ton of people who care about this issue globally, if you care about this issue, how can we make it as easy as possible to get involved? And that's really the seed of the idea. And then we created the Connect for Animals platform as the answer to help people get involved in ending factory farming, which we think is one of the biggest ethical issues on the planet today.
And there you are. It's just amazing. I did just sign up. So excited that this exists. I've been dreaming about something like this for a long time, but it takes a lot. It takes marketing, and it takes organizational skills. So I want to go out to Jeannie. You are the person who is going to kind of try to organize all this amongst other people as well. How the heck do you do it? Because I know just trying to organize 10 people for a meetup could drive me out of my mind sometimes. So this is going to take a lot of organization. Jeannie, take it away.
Well, I think, the biggest thing is that our group of volunteers is super motivated. I mean, we are all about meeting people where they're at, whether you're veg curious, if you're vegan already, if you're a hardcore activist. We want everybody to be part of Connect for Animals, to join us on the platform and to help out wherever you feel like you fit in. We have a really solid volunteer team. We have folks that do social media. We just created a new blog. So we have writers. I am in charge of events data management. And what that means is I'm pretty much going through and curating these events. But like Stephen was saying, our team is just rock solid, and we're just all about new ideas, creating an enthusiasm for ending factory farming. And that really helps grease the skids. It makes our life, not easy, because there is so much work. Like Steve was saying, behind the scenes, there is a lot of moving parts. And we just do the best we can to plug people in where they need to be, volunteers and, members alike, whoever we can get involved. That's what we're about.
All right. And you can sign up at connectforanimals.com. And you can also just do my favorite way. You go to the phone, just like you signed up for Unchained TV, the world's only streaming TV network. You can sign up, have these apps on your phone. I signed up, and you're going to be like, oh, there's Jane again posting some more, because I think this is fantastic. So let me ask you, Gatita, how do you get the world to know that this app exists? Because that's our challenge. We've created the world's only vegan animal rights streaming television network and fast channel network, but we don't have a multi-million-dollar advertising budget. We can't have billboards all over LA. We can't have TV commercials. And I would assume that the challenge is the same for you. How are you going to counteract it? Maybe I could learn a thing or two.
Totally, Jane. And that's where we are right now. I mean, so far, just Stephen's amazing work leading this platform and developing it into this app as well. It's come such a long way, and there's been tremendous word of mouth, which has gotten us to the place we are at now, at up to almost 2,000 users. But now we're ready to really take it to the next level, meet people where they're at. So we're looking at, as Jeannie mentioned, blog, new content creation for social media. We're also branching out with some paid advertisements that are really tested and targeted, as well as extending out to events of all sorts, local and potentially virtual as well. So we really want to just maximize how we can get the word out and do a lot of testing along the way to see what works.
Well, I love this. I have to tell you that I feel it's very needed. I literally have been dreaming of something like this for a long time. And one of the reasons is that veganism, which obviously is connected to ending factory farming, if everybody went vegan, we wouldn't have factory farming. It's been under attack. And I'm just going to put up a couple of the, I think, outrageous headlines that are the headlines of outrageous articles. Meat is back on plates and in politics after years in which plant-based was the mantra. Meat once again dominates the national conversation about dinner. That's the New York Times. The middle one is new research is bad news for vegans, even if you eat plant-based protein. That's the New York Post. Yeah, to be expected, but still. This one, BBC Science, even protein-rich vegan diets may fall short on key nutrients. Studies suggest, hogwash, or should I say, maybe I shouldn't use the phrase hogwash. Could that be speciesist? Nonsense. Okay. We have millions and millions of people who are vegan for decades. I know people who are born vegan. Their health stats are better than the general public. There's great documentaries like Game Changers and documentaries about blue zones, etc. We can't let this stand. I was a reporter for more than 30 years. If you start getting negative commentary about your reporting, it usually results in a trip to your immediate supervisor's office, which is not pleasant, and you have to justify yourself. So right now, these reporters, these journalists are operating in a no consequence zone, and they feel like they can get away with saying anything because nobody's going to respond. As soon as I saw your platform, I go, aha, because we've already started tweeting responses. In fact, today, we just did a Donnie Moss of theirturn.net on his X account, did a response to a New York Times article bemoaning that laboratory animals might be killed due to budget cuts. It's like, hello, they were going to be tortured and killed anyway. Can you at least mention that? Right. It was just like mind-boggling. But we got 7 or 8 retweets. Imagine if these articles got 1,000 retweets. Imagine if everybody who signed up to Connect for Animals went on X and retweeted with a comment. That would be a game changer. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that, Stephen. As somebody, I know you have a lot of background in the animal rights movement, having worked at Mercy for Animals. And so you know the territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, a lot of what you said really resonates with me and sort of why we started Connect for Animals in the first place. And that's because there are first of all, there are so many great actions and campaigns that are happening all the time, right? There are a ton of amazing organizations that are trying to make progress on different parts of the system related to, factory farming animals for food. There's also animal experimentation. There's all kinds of different facets at which you can look at animal ethics, right? And there's so many amazing organizations. And if you want to, for example, there are a lot of people out there who want to take action across all of these different areas or these different organizations. And if one of those people just wanted to ask the question of where could I go to look at the campaigns that are happening across all of the different organizations that I care about, I mean, currently the best solution, I guess, before Connect for Animals is like you sign up for kind of every email newsletter on the planet and wait for those action alerts to come out. And I know that some people do this, and it's great that they do, but we want to reduce the friction however we can. So something that we started working on last year and something that we're going to keep working on going forward is pulling these campaign actions from all the different organizations, having them on Connect for Animals, so that if people say, hey, what can I do to take action for animals right now? And they just want to help. They're not putting together the campaigns. They're relying on these great organizations to put together the campaigns, and then they want to take action on them. If we can have all of those actions together in one place, which we're making, progress towards, then somebody can come to Connect for Animals and say, here's a great action from Mercy for Animals, or from Their Turn, or from PETA, or across all of these different areas. And they can just go through and boom, 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 action, 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 just run down the list and make a difference across all of these things. And I guess talking a little bit about that point, and something else you mentioned earlier about there being this backlash, against veganism or against animal ethics. I think that if people start caring about this issue, but they're not fully committed, like the people here, the people in this room right now, like us doing this interview, if people hear about it, they start caring about the issue, but these things always go in cycles, and then suddenly there's this big media pushback. If this person hasn't gotten connected to the rich animal advocacy ecosystem, if they do not have all the facts, if they do not have the social support, if they haven't taken the time to really learn, they're going to be swayed back into the mainstream very, very easily, or back into whatever the sort of talking points of the day are, right? So a lot of media outlets don't even necessarily care. With the anti-vegan stuff, for example, it's just like, oh, we've been pro-vegan, pro-animal for a little while. Well, now people are bored of that. So the thing that's going to be clickable is like, oh, let's be anti-vegan, anti-animal for a little bit. It's like, can we find something that elevates like the problems of veganism? Because maybe people will love to click on that if they've gotten bored of like plant-based actually seems like it's typically better for your health. It's like, oh, that's boring now. We need to get people to click on things. So if we with Connect for Animals can get people more socially connected, more engaged in the animal advocacy movement, then hopefully they can be more resilient to these kind of media cycles that we live in as well. And that's also a goal, is just keeping people here longer in the animal advocacy space.
I think you've made excellent points. I will say, having been a journalist for more than 30 years, journalists are pack animals. Okay. Is that speciesist? No, I don't know. I don't know that every reference to animals is speciesist. It's only if it's a negative reference. But
a lot of them are. It's hard to tell. Yeah.
It's hard to tell. But the truth is that you're right. It happens in waves, and there's the swing of the pendulum. So with the launch of Beyond Meat as a public stock in 2019, there was a swing. Ooh, I even had people who used to dismiss me, call me and text me and say, wow, you were really ahead of your time. Well, now it's swinging back, but we can easily reverse that again and make it even bigger. I mean, if you look at social justice movements, it was never just a straight line up. If you look at the LGBTQ movement, and I speak as a member, it was going up slowly. Then the AIDS crisis hit. There was a lot of hate. Then there was a resurgence. And, now, I mean, it's not static. So I think what you're describing is absolutely correct. But the question is, how do we tell our side of the story in this social media and mainstream media landscape? And so I think that what you're doing is very important. And I will definitely use your app to get try to motivate people to respond by just clicking on X. Because one thing I've learned, you ask people to write a letter, no. And what PETA and other organizations, including PCRM and Mercy for Animals and these other big groups, they've automated it. Now, I have to go back to you again. I did look at your bio, which is very impressive, and I noticed that you are a mathematician. You graduated summa cum laude with a degree in mathematics, and that's just the start. You've done a lot. How are you going to use your math skills to work with the algorithms to get that? I think is the key. I mean, I have a calculator. That's my math skill, but you have some real math skills. How are we going to use those math skills to hit the algorithms?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a couple things, and then actually, I might want to popcorn it over to Geetika to see if she has any marketing insights here, because I very much math brain, right? That's kind of my background: math, data science, data engineering. Like I was on the math team in high school for all 4 years, competed at state level competitions, like big nerd, right? Big nerd. Not really good at the social media thing. That's never really been my space. And so like social media, I have kind of a hard time at that. But I mean, when it comes to math, when it comes to data, when it comes to AI, for example, technology in general, that's a big part of Connect for Animals. What we do is trying to make these things happen at scale and get people connected to the resources and the organizations and the events that are going to be a good fit for them. And so, Jeannie and Geetika definitely have a view under the hood here, but there is a lot of data involved. There's a lot of technology. I mean, with Unchained TV, I'm sure that you know as well, the technology gets complicated really quickly, and especially when you're dealing with a lot of data, a lot of resources, opportunities, groups, and users, and you're trying to connect one to the other. You're trying to do this matchmaking process essentially in general of like, okay, somebody comes in the door, they're going to be interested in certain things. They're going to have certain skills, and how can we get them pointed to the spot in the animal advocacy space that's going to be a really good fit for them, right? And so we actually try to be, even a little less like biased about where people end up, like what organization maybe they end up supporting or what campaigns they work on. We just kind of want people to get involved, to get engaged. And so on the mathy data side, there's a lot of really interesting stuff. Like I said, I'm a big old nerd, data science and machine learning, trying to do this matching, this like recommendation algorithm, right? Like of who would be interested in what. We have a lot of really cool work that we can do on that going forward. And there's already a lot of interesting stuff behind the scenes and under the hood. But Geetika, I mean, from a marketing and social media perspective, feel free to chime in if you have anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Stephen. I would just tack onto that. The beauty of having a platform is that everything is so centralized. So, when my first big vegan event that I attended was in Portland, Oregon, and it's a vegan hub and there's a lot of access to things. But something like Connect for Animals would really allow someone who doesn't have that access to get involved on a much bigger scale than they could otherwise. And once we have all of that sort of centralized data in a platform, then we can start to understand like what really supports people out there to be advocates, and how can we better support them, and also partner with bigger organizations that are doing this work to say, hey, like we have these learnings, now you can use that for your advocacy campaigns. And really just by that cohesion and centralization, I think it can be so much more powerful.
So Connect for Animals is allowing us to speak with one voice, which I personally think is so important. I have zero tolerance for infighting. And unfortunately, it does occur in our movement, and people try to drag Unchained TV or me into it. I'm like, leave us alone. We're just want to speak for voiceless animals. Keep us out of your infighting. Anytime we're fighting amongst ourselves, the other side is applauding and saying, yeah, keep fighting. So I tell people, for example, you want to be a raw vegan? Go right ahead, but don't post and knock meat alternatives. Okay. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains have always been there. Everybody's always had the option to choose those. Those products were created because people weren't choosing those. So That's number one. And number two, to speak with a unified voice, because there's strength in numbers. And a lot of these meat industry organizations, they have all sorts of associations, the Cattlemen's Association and this association and that association. I don't think we have the kind of grassroots association where people can speak with one voice when something happens that is, and being in the media, I'm particularly attuned to the media, which sets the tone for society. Let's face it. The New York Times is the most important newspaper in the world. When it says meat is back, that telegraphs to everybody in the intelligentsia, the big money, blah, blah, blah. Oh, meat's back. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So those are very dangerous articles that have to be counteracted. And I'll also say, as a journalist, if you see that another journalist has gotten blowback for its reporting, it sends a message to you. Maybe I should think twice about doing a very slanted, badly researched piece about veganism where I don't contact the other side. I mean, the New York Times article, why didn't they talk to PETA? Why didn't they talk to PCRM? Why didn't they talk to Mercy for Ann? Why didn't they talk to all these organizations? They talked to one organization with one quote that I could see. That's not a balanced article. And so I feel that this is super exciting, because it would allow, if we had an action alert and we used mathematics to make it simple, not sit there and write a letter to your. The other day I was at an event and they said, everybody has to write to their city council person. I'm like, good luck with that. We don't live in that kind of era. It's got to be something where they boom and it goes out. That's what PETA is so good at. I mean, almost every day I get something from PETA that says, do Y or do X or do something, and it sends out letters. And there's other organizations as well that do that very effectively. A small number. The vast majority do not have the technology or perhaps the funding and or the technology to do that. But my question to you is, are you going to fill that space? Because I think that would be, first of all, incredibly effective. And I also think it would put you on the map and allow you to collaborate with other organizations to be like that mouthpiece. Because we've actually been looking for that. We've been looking for the project that Their Turn and Unchained TV works on to challenge these reporters who are writing these misinformed articles in mainstream media. Is like, okay, we've done an X response and we put it on X, we put it on Facebook, we put it on LinkedIn. Now how do we get other people to retweet it? How do we get other people to say, yeah, and blah, blah, blah? And people are saying, agree with you. So thank you.
Yeah.
Not always, but this time they're agreeing. Okay.
No, of course. I think, not always agree. It's good to have a little vigorous debate every now and then. I hear you on the infighting though, and I just go back to one thing there really quickly. I do think that healthy disagreement can be good. I think that the problem absolutely exists when it descends into people just tearing each other apart for no reason. And as Connect for Animals, since our entire goal is to help people find groups and organizations and events and things, we really do in general have to be kind of pro the whole movement, support the whole movement. I mean, that's our role here, is to show people all of the options that are available. And unless we have a very good reason not to, we're generally gonna try to show people everything that's out there, right? Which is a diversity of approaches, of strategies, of theories of change. And so I think that's a very healthy thing. But when it comes to your question about and centralizing that, absolutely. I do think, there's, first of all, like, get people to care, right? And then even if you have all these people who care, how do you get them to take action? Like you said, like getting people to sit down and write a long letter to their city council people. Some people will do that, absolutely. Some people will invest however much time and energy it takes, however difficult the task is. But those people are few and far between. Lots of us, I mean, myself included, like, I'm inclined to do certain things and not inclined to do others. If you make it really, really, really easy for me, then I'm probably more likely to do it. And I think that is true of pretty much everybody out there. And so I think that the question for us at Connect for Animals, and something that we have started working on, is like I said, pulling together these action alerts, these campaigns from different organizations. One problem that we run into pretty quickly, and so this is going to be a challenge for us going forward, and something that we're thinking through, but if anyone in your audience has ideas also, then would love to hear, is the volume of possible actions can get pretty big pretty quickly. So for example, large organizations will have specific campaigns maybe against specific companies, and there maybe won't be a ton of those. But if you go down to the individual activist level, every single social media post that every animal activist is putting out there, if we count each one of those as a distinct action of like amplifying a certain message, then kind of the space of possible actions can blow up very quickly. And that's not a bad thing. And I mean, that's actually a very good thing if we have so much work that's happening. But then the question becomes, and this is a challenge for us at Connect for Animals, is how do we show the right thing to the right person? And how do we present all of this information to people without them getting overwhelmed? And that's sort of related to the getting people to sit down and write their city council members, right? Is the question of not getting people to care and not about the information itself, but the presentation of the information, the presentation of this stuff, nudging users, getting people to be able to feel like, oh, hey, this is easy. Oh, like I can do this. This is not overwhelming. I'm not in over my head. And so it's a big challenge. You know, it's much easier to put a bunch of things on a website than it is to get people to use those things in the way that you might want. And I think that a lot of people who set out to build something like this, and there have been other efforts, you know, it's like the building of the thing is challenging, but then having people use it in a way that's easy and that's effective and impactful is a whole separate problem. And it's very difficult. Yeah, I mean, but it's also very interesting, which I think is good for us at Connect for Animals because we get to work on it for a while.
Oh my gosh, yes. I can imagine that you would be up all day and night adding events, because the irony is people think that, let's say, going vegan and getting involved in the animal rights movement is some sacrifice. It's literally a party every night. Honestly, I could go to a party or an event every single night if I wanted to. But I can't afford the dog sitters, to be honest with you, because not all are dog friendly. It's a social club. And, you know, I try to tell people sometimes, hey, it's not just a social club. And, you know, it's really interesting how we affect change. I'm listening to this book right now called Change, and it's super interesting, talking about the assumptions we make about how change happens. And the book, the author actually challenges the notion that really famous people saying things on social media is the way, because everybody wants those celebrities, right? And what he seems to be saying is that it's the connections that people make, and those connections are with family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, people that they meet in a social setting. But that the best connections are weak connections, because if you're just talking to people in your immediate circle who agree with you, you're just, they call it reinforcement. Yes, it's basically preaching the converted. But what he talked about, the 6 degrees of separation approach, is to start expanding those weak connections. So I'll give you a personal example. On Facebook, you know, I get requests for friends on my personal page. And of course, I'm thinking, well, the vegans, yeah. But, you know, actually listening to this book now, I'm going to just click on the non-vegans, because those are the weak connections that I need to get the information out to. So it's a very complicated 3-dimensional chess game to affect change. Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, we have to get more scientific about it. That's why my eyes popped out when I thought, oh, Stephen has all this mathematical ability, because a lot of it is boiling down to mathematical equations of how we expand our circle of influence. Each and every animal rights person, vegan person who wants to end factory farming, we have tentacles on social media, and those tentacles are the most important. I do feel that our movement suffers from preaching to the converted. I can't tell you, one of the reasons I started Unchained TV is that I went to one too many documentary screenings where everybody in the room is already vegan, and we're watching a video with a lot of traumatizing footage. And it's like, no, other people need to see this. I'm not re-traumatizing myself. Other people who say they love animals and are eating, you know, bacon, those are the people who need to see this. And so how do you counteract, and it's a provocative question, and maybe you want to take it, Jeannie, how do we counteract preaching to the converted in this format that you've created, which is so incredible?
Well, I think that is the beauty of Connect for Animals, is that we are accepting and welcoming to everybody, no matter at what level you are in this movement, in our movement. And that's what's so important, is because when you talk about, going to a documentary, everybody is vegan, it's the tribe, we're all together. I don't want to underestimate the power of that. No, we don't want to be watching traumatizing videos, et cetera, but the power of having like-minded people, especially in our movement, because there are so few. Even if you're a vegan who's been vegan forever, it's still really hard for me to find like-minded people right in my own town. And I live in a fairly big city. And so it is a provocative question, and it is a little tough to address because it's so multifaceted. When we talk about the movement and, pro-animal advocacy, we have people coming from, I'm just against circuses, I'm against puppy mills, I'm against, animal testing, and they have these niches. And I think, again, that's why we're trying to be this clearinghouse. And I don't want to say we're trying to do too much or be too big, because we really do want to plug people into where the pieces of the movement, the pieces of the action that they really want to get involved in. And what happens is it is an organic process where people meet somebody else, or maybe they come on board. They're like, I'm against puppy mills, Connect for Animals, let me go here, let me find an event. But what happens is they're on the platform, they meet other people, they find an event that's maybe tangentially related, and why not? Why shouldn't I do that? It kind of expands people's, you have to be open-minded anyhow to be able to want to do this, but it kind of expands their horizons in a way. And I think that that's the beauty of what we do by, having all of these different options, these different actions, these different events. We tag the events so that if you are only interested in a certain type of event, you can do that. I'm only interested in doing impactful events, I'm only interested in socializing. You can do that. And I've kind of run out of where I'm going to need somebody else from the team to step in and help me out with this, because I'm going in too many different directions. But
no, you're great. And I want to say, for those just joining, we're talking about this fantastic new app. I downloaded it, filled it out, and I'm going to use it like crazy. It's right there. It's got 3 little birds, Connect for Animals. There it is. It's free. It's a nonprofit, correct? It's 100% nonprofit.
501c3. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, 501c3. And this is just like Unchained TV is a nonprofit. This is a nonprofit, and it's using high tech to get the message out. We're in the 21st century. We've got to go high tech. We've got to use every single technology available. So if you're just joining us, here it is.
Have you heard about the amazing new platform for animal rights events? Connect for Animals is a user-friendly platform where you can find and share animal rights events in all of North America. It's perfect for people who are trying to find activism opportunities or share their own. You can even find lectures, meditations, and conferences on their website.
Empower the hundreds of thousands of people who care deeply about ending factory farming but aren't sure where to start. We're building a community where anyone can learn about this movement, discover events and organizations, and find ways to get involved.
By the way, in an article on some pro-meat industry publication, Unchained TV was declared a threat. I was thrilled. I was like, oh, I'm so flattered. So you
it's
can
a badge
probably,
of honor, right? Is to be called out on one of those websites. Yeah,
exactly. I'm sure that's in your future as well. Let's break down some of the things you do specifically, which I thought was great. We've talked about the blog, but here you can take courses. Can you tell us about this? Gatita, what is this course part?
So Connect for Animals, in addition to allowing for you to find local events and take action. It also is a hub for tons of resources. So if you're interested in getting involved, you can find access to a hub of available online courses, job openings, you name it, anything that you need to basically equip yourself with the type of advocacy you want to lead. You can go to Connect for Animals and search on the website or the app and find the types of resources you need. And again, it's just like the amazing work of the team, just pulling together all of these incredible existing resources that are available and then centralizing them so that somebody who's new to the movement, somebody who's seasoned and has been doing it for some time, they just have to go to one specific place and they can have access to all these available things out in the world.
Now, there's also the events per city. And I thought this was really good. Being in Los Angeles myself, I popped on Los Angeles, but you have, it looked like hundreds of cities around the world. So, Stephen, tell us how this works and how do you find out all the events? Because like I said, I literally cannot keep up with all the events in LA alone. There's something happening every single night. And there's some that I get on Eventbrite and Partiful and Signal. And, I get them through all these different platforms that are coming at me. Of course, Facebook as well. How are you going to be able to track all these?
It's a big old messy process, and actually, Jeannie. It helps a ton with this. This is really like one of her big domains. But I'll give a little bit of background into maybe some of the infrastructure that we have that helps with it. So first of all, we do not have 100% of all events. That is our goal. Our goal is to have every relevant event that is related to ending factory farming and veganism, to have it on Connect for Animals so that people can find those things in their cities, but they can also find the events that are happening online. That's our North Star when it comes to events. We do not have it because there, like you said, there are so many. Some of them only exist in Signal chats, WhatsApp groups, etc. But we have built out some technical infrastructure to automatically pull in as many events as we can from relevant organizations. We have a list of hundreds of different animal advocacy organizations and local groups. We try to automatically pull in as many of those events as we can. We are subscribed to basically every newsletter on the planet as well. And so this is where Jeannie helps out every single week, goes through our inbox, looks through those newsletters, looks for events, adds them to the platform. And then people can submit their events as well. So we have a lot of people who either work at or volunteer at other animal advocacy organizations or groups, nonprofit groups, as well as grassroots groups, who will come and add their events to Connect for Animals because they know that it's going to be on the platform and that we're going to send it out to our email newsletter. And so we get events from all these different places, and it's our job to make sure that they all look clean, that the data is good, that there's nothing inappropriate, that it's all relevant, that if there's any duplicate events, that we go through and we take care of those. It's a big old messy process. Jeannie helped with a ton of that. Jeannie, do you want to give any more insight into how we do it here?
But thanks to Stephen and the tech team, we have something called scrapers that go and once we've pulled a group and we know that they have regularly occurring events, these scrapers will go in and they will actually pull these events and fill out as much information as they can. And one of my jobs is to go into these events that have been pulled automatically and make sure that they're tagged correctly, that, like you were saying, that has everything that is valid and needed and filled out on the event, so that whenever it pops up, it's a clean event that anybody can click on. So we go through, we do. If we have all the groups, we are following nearly everything that's out there. We try to pull it in, but there is so much more to be done. And the city, the LA one that's something that we've just been starting on. So if you are from a certain city, if you're from San Antonio and you go in and you're like, gosh, there's no events at all, it's coming. It will be here. But we're building, and there's so much in the background that's happening. So just be patient, or be like, hey, I can add my own events. All you have to do is create an account. It's very simple. It's very easy. And we're always looking to create partnerships with pro-animal groups that have their own media people that are willing to go in and drop in their events, make sure that they're on the platform. And we love that too.
So Amira St. John says, I just downloaded the app. I look forward to checking it out. Excellent. And, it takes about 5 minutes to fill out the app so that it's successful. And I know personally from running Unchained TV, which is our TV streaming network that's also an app on the phone, when people say they're going to do it later, doesn't happen that often.
Doesn't happen. Yep.
So do it now, people. Just download it. It's very easy. You just go to your app store. I did it. And you just put in Connect for Animals in the app store. It's free. You just hit download, and then you fill out some little information about, your city, your name, blah, 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 so that they can target. Like let's say we just had somebody comment, I'm going to look for events in Chicago. So let's take your app through that now. So he's in Chicago. He's interested. What does he do? Aside from obviously download the app, you can download it online at connectforanimals.com, and you can also download it on your phone. That's the easiest, obviously. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the best thing to do, right, is first of all, when you sign up, make sure that you're subscribed to the weekly Events Digest email newsletter. We've had that going. People love that because we send the events, including local events. So if you live in Chicago, when you sign up, fill out your location, say like, I live in Chicago, sign up for that Events Digest newsletter every week. Those events, virtual events and conferences and local events in your area, straight to your inbox, or at least as many as we know about, right? So that's the biggest thing. And fill out your location, subscribe to the Events Digest newsletter. Every week you'll get those. And then on the platform itself, on the app, when you go to your homepage, you scroll down, you'll see those events in your area. You'll see events in Chicago. You'll see people who live in Chicago. You'll see some of the local Chicago animal rights or animal advocacy or vegan groups, meetup groups and nonprofit groups and things like that. So really, that's the biggest thing: is enter your location, sign up for the newsletter, and then you can go to the homepage, scroll down, you'll see things. And then if you go to any of the other pages, like you go and look at events specifically, because you entered your location, it'll show you those virtual events, but it'll also show you the local events in your area. And so it's really just as simple as that. And then just keep up with it anytime that you're interested in going to an event. You can look through the email, you can go to the app, go online to the website, connectforanimals.com. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And how are you going to interact with social media? Because so many people don't really use websites anymore. They're just DMing each other. And so how do you plan on handling that? Should I throw that over to Gatika?
Yeah, thanks, Jane. I think to start, and then I'll let Stephen take this one, but I think, to start, this is something that between social media is really like an amplification of what's happening on the app. So we definitely leverage it to, if there are particular events that are of interest or things that we really feel like should be highlighted, it's a great channel for doing so. But most of the information would be centralized on the app. So that's like your first place to go if you really want to get the specific information that's relevant to you and your profile in terms of your location and interests and things like that. But then we can definitely use that information and push it out on various channels as we see opportunity to get more people excited and involved in different events.
Now, not everything is an event or a course. Like sometimes, for example, we will debut a new video. We just wrapped up Vegan Creator Con, the first 2-day conference for vegan social media creators. When I say we wrapped, I was there videotaping and participating, and I did a panel, but it was done by the woman who does vegan street fair, Jessica Cruz. It's a breakthrough. I learned so much in this 2 days, and we did a video. Is there any portal within your organization to publish videos about events?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the way that I think about this, right, sort of nerdy math brain, is like different types of information that people might want to know. So people want to know about events that are happening in their area, about campaign actions. People might want to know about organizations they can volunteer for, about courses they can take. But then there's this big category of just resources or videos or content. Right now, the best place to find that stuff is we have a resources page where people can go to find some of that, but it's focused mostly on the courses, on some self-care and like burnout prevention resources and things like that. So that's not something that we do too much of right now is sort of this broader resource and video and like content thing. I know that there are other websites that will try to host more of this, or like on social media. I know that people are constantly reposting each other's things and sharing things. In the future, there might be space for us to help surface some of this really great content better. It's just from a technical and like a user perspective, it's a difficult thing to do. And we decided that we wanted to focus on a few of these other things first, like events, actions, groups, profiles. So maybe in the future, but right now, not so much. We're focused on these other features that we've been developing.
Yeah, and you don't have to play the whole. You could just have a link. Like there could be a way to add links. But let me ask you about sanctuaries. Now, we have all been in this movement for a long time, and I remember when I started, there were maybe 3 sanctuaries. There was farm sanctuary, there was animal play. I mean, there were a small number. Now there are hundreds, and I think it's one of the greatest resources is to where are all these sanctuaries? How can people visit? Is that something that you're considering adding, and whoever wants to take it?
Yeah, I can. I'll talk to that really quick. And by the way, we were talking about social media earlier. I do want to give a quick shout out to our social media manager, Jimena, who manages our Instagram and our LinkedIn pages, does a great job with those. So social media is not really my realm, but thankfully we have somebody who it is her realm. So when it comes to sanctuaries, we currently tackle that in having sanctuaries listed as groups on Connect for Animals. And so we have a lot of sanctuaries on the platform. There are probably a ton that we do not have. So if your favorite animal sanctuary is not listed, then there's a way through Connect for Animals that you can suggest a new group. And so if you go to the groups page, or if you're on your homepage, sanctuaries would be groups, and they're tagged with the animal sanctuary tag. And so the best place to see that would just be to go to the groups, search by tagged as animal sanctuaries, and search in your location, which I think it probably automatically does filter down to your location specifically. So that's the best way currently. It would be nice to have a map of them. I know that there are some websites. There's a website that I don't know too well, so I might get it wrong, but Global Federation of Sanctuaries or something like that. And there's a website called Open Sanctuary as well, which provides resources. I don't know if they provide a map per se, but we do have that list, even if not in like a map format necessarily.
And, just listing that group as a link, then it includes it. That's the great thing about links, is that you can just add on and on and on and on. And I just think it's very fascinating. Like I said, I've even thought about doing this years ago, but ran headlong into a whole bunch of issues that came up. And my idea was just like a next door. Like the reason being is that I have found that there's a bunch of vegans in my neighborhood and people who care about animals and animal rights, not just dogs and cats, although I have 2 dogs and a cat, so I care about them too. And I stumbled upon these people and I was like, damn, if I'd only known they existed, I could alert them to protests, meetups, let's support a vegan restaurant that's struggling, blah, blah, blah. And the problem I ran into is that how small the demographic and the area you're going to pick, because you don't want to get into a situation where people can figure out where somebody else lives. So how do you balance the privacy issue with providing information to a particular locale so that it's effective for that organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm happy to tackle this one unless anyone else wanted to. But we take this very seriously, and so just in general, user privacy, data privacy, these are things that are very important, and they matter a lot to users of online platforms like this. So in general, we don't want to know where people live. We don't want to know your address. We give people the ability to add their location at the city level, essentially, which we think is, I think people might be able to input their zip code as well if they want to get down to a specific section of a city. Like I used to live in Denver, for example, and different zip codes can help you narrow in on these different neighborhoods. But there's not a place to enter your address. We don't want to know. We don't want to necessarily show any of that to other users, but we want people to be able to enter their location in a way where they can say, hey, like what's going on in my city, or what's going on in my zip code, like my part of that city, right? And so as time goes on, we'll see if people like that. People seem to like that so far, and it doesn't get us into any of these user privacy issues about people having their addresses exposed or things like that, while still giving people that functionality that they want that's location based. And as as time goes on, maybe we can update that. But for right now, I think that's kind of a good compromise. And then we let users do what they want to at that point. If they want to go to an event and meet people and get to know people that way and share their phone number and share where they live to hang out for potlucks or for doing projects together or things like that, that's kind of on the user side at that point. But for right now, we try to stay away to just, let people, yeah.
What about protests? Because obviously mobilizing people to attend protests, there's actually a protest coming up in a couple of days here in Los Angeles against a supermarket that allegedly uses animals from a factory farm where extreme cruelty has been documented. I'll say that much. I won't give it away. But can you mobilize people to attend protests?
Yes, so protests are frequently listed on Connect for Animals. I know that so by default, all of the events on Connect for Animals are public. So we do that so that people can find them from Google and things like that. So if people are searching for vegan events, like they can come across, kind of like you would on Eventbrite, right? You can find specific events. There are certain protests that people are comfortable making public. And I know that within the activism space, there are certain protests that people maybe don't necessarily want to make public for whatever reason, just because they want to have the element of surprise, or they're afraid of, something negative happening if it's made public ahead of time. And so those types of protests currently do not really live on the platform so much, because things are public by default. In the future, there might be a way to have some of those types of protests that are private by default or things like that. But for right now, yes, there are protests on Connect for Animals from different organizations that host them, kind of happening all over the country. So, Jeannie and I every week get to see all the events that are happening everywhere across the US. And frequently, pretty much every weekend, some weeks, lots of protests in different cities for different causes, different campaigns. So it's very inspiring.
Well, I think this is so exciting. Now, I'm urging everybody who is watching and who will watch, just Connect for Animals. Take a moment. The animals cannot speak for themselves. And there you are. Connect for Animals. I signed up. It's very easy. And now I have the ability to add things that are happening in our movement in Los Angeles and globally. I mean, there's a really important, for example, I just got a notice this morning, PCRM is having a Friday talk about new changes in government to end animal testing, and it's a breakthrough. I'm registering for that. That's something I think would be fantastic for everybody to register for. It's not directly connected to factory farming, but it's all connected. When one animal is abused, they say if one person is abused, we're all abused. So it's part of that general umbrella. And I wish you guys the best. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And this is the time when I talk about Unchained TV at the end of our broadcast, because there's a lot of commonalities. We're also using an app. You can also download it on your phone, and it's on your TV behind you. You can do Amazon Fire Stick, Roku device, Apple TV device. It's on every Samsung TV, on every LG TV. It's also on the phone. You can just download it for free. It takes 10 seconds. Go to Unchained TV right there. 2,000 videos, including this one's going to be on. And you can text the videos. The great thing is when you get it on the phone, somebody says, I could never give up cheese. We have a whole category of all these vegan cheeses that you could send to them. You just go, boom, send it to them. So I could never give up dairy. Boom. There's hundreds of videos about dairy alternatives. And the list goes on and on. So I hope that while you're having your download app day, you include Unchained TV as well as Connect for Animals. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're using technology in Unchained TV's case, as the world's only vegan streaming network, to change hearts and minds, get out of the vegan echo chamber, and reach people who need this information.
So it's a vegan Netflix. Okay, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I love Unchained TV.
Unchained TV. Your life will change. It's just that easy.
Unchained TV has all sorts of content for everybody.
Unchained TV changed my life.
Unchained TV is crushing it.
I love Unchained TV. Unchained TV is my go-to.
Unchained TV. Who knew?
Unchained, baby. Yes.